And welcome back to part 3 of cleaning that big glass reef tank. We've just gone through and discussed the new equipment that the homeowners added for dispensing the calcium, the alkalinity, the magnesium, the vodka, as well as replenishment water. We've gone through and vacuumed the gravel and cleaned the inside of the tank. We're now ready to put the water back into the tank. So stop goofing around and let's get to work. As I mentioned, we've just finished siphoning out the gravel and extracting about 20 gallons of water out of the system. We've also got a flame angel here in the bucket that we're acclimating to the tank. We now want to replenish that 20 gallons of water we took out with 20 gallons of new, clean seawater.
There are many types of salt water that can be added to the reef tank. One could be synthetic salt mixes with filtered faucet water. A better method would be to use purified water in some sorts with your synthetic salt. Or in this case, I have the advantage of being able to use real ocean water that's delivered to me on a bi-monthly basis.
That's 20 gallons of new real ocean water put into the tank. We're now going to turn the main filter pump back on. And if I've never explained it to you before, right here is a perfect example of why you never want to allow your water to rise beyond what I'm going to call the normal running water level. Because when the power goes off, X amount of water is going to drain back into the tank, namely because those returns in the tank are a back siphon or a suction right back out of the tank, and of course that water fills up into the reservoir. So when the power goes off with the water level no higher than that red tape mark, you can see it's going to rise up to within about an inch of overflowing the system. So it's important to note where the normal running water level is in the tank. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead now and we can plug the system back in. And now with the water level beginning to fill up inside the tank and the water spilling through the internal overflow, it's time to turn back on our main circulation pump. This is the one that's connected to the sea swirls in the tank, and this is the one that offers the tremendous internal circulation. So let's go ahead and plug that pump in.
And here's a very obvious example of the amount of water flow that the sea swirls pass through them as they discharge the water from that internal circulation water pump.
And just so you don't think I'm pulling your leg without taking any water out of the system, having plugged it back in, the water in that reservoir that was within 1 inch of overflowing the top is now within 1 inch of the normal operating water level line. So you need to make sure that your reservoir will accommodate the amount of water that can back siphon if and when the power goes off. And now we want to clean the protein skimmer cup.
A protein skimmer essentially is a cylinder with an amount of heavily aerated water pumped inside of it. That heavily aerated water can drive organic compounds out of the water, and at the top we have a collection cup that collects that debris. To clean that collection cup, it has a threaded collar on it that you simply turn to one side, the entire cup comes off. At that point we can then take the cup over into the kitchen and rinse it out thoroughly in the sink.
We'll go ahead and bring this right over here to the kitchen sink. Take the cap off of it, empty the contents out, and rinse out the inside.
The dark greenish fluid you see being flushed or washed out of the collection cup is the organic compounds that the protein skimmer drove out of the water. It's basically the results of fish waste, fish food, things that would cause the nutrient levels to rise within the aquarium.
And it's as easy as that.
This protein skimmer is the main line of defense in the Berlin-style filter system that this reef tank runs upon.
We'll go ahead and wipe a little bit of that algae and debris off the inside of the protein skimmer, because that's going to inhibit its ability to drive organics out of the system. And then we'll go ahead and replace the cup back on top. And considering the protein skimmer is our main line of defense, is basically, as far as filtration is concerned, what it's doing is it's driving organics out of the water before the biological filter has to deal with it. And of course, ultimately, the bacteria would then convert it into nutrients. And as I've mentioned a few times, we've got this flame angel that we're acclimating to the tank. We've also got that 1 inch of water in the filter that's a little too high. So we're going to go ahead and siphon some of that water out of it into the bucket where the flame angel is at, so we can drop the water level on the sump.
When in Los Angeles, make it a point to stop in Long Beach, California at Age of Aquariums, 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. At Age of Aquariums, their knowledgeable staff showcases designer aquariums featuring colorful corals and exotic fish, a spectacular 4-sided 500-gallon living coral reef, along with a wide selection of coral frags and a large selection of saltwater fish, the cute, the graceful, and the not so cute. Age of Aquariums also carries a selection of popular freshwater fish for the beginning hobbyist. Along with a full line of aquarium supplies and supplements, Age of Aquariums quarantines and medicates all their new fish and proudly provides LA and Orange County's largest aquarium maintenance service. Age of Aquarium is located at 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. For more information, dial 562-438-6252 or visit ageofaquariums.biz. Do you remember our friend Condi? He's the LA service guy that has that rose garden anemone tank. Well, join us for episode 100. He's got a 1,000-gallon reef tank he's going to be building.
So welcome to another episode of LA Fishguys. LA Fishguys, welcome to another episode of LA. We're here with our friend Condi. Condi of Tropical Illusion. Tropical Illusions. We're ready to work on 1,000-gallon aquarium. This is a 1,000-gallon, 1,000 gallons. It's what they call a quarter round tank. Quarter round. This is a bowed or curved front on the formed front on it. Formed front on the face of it. 48 inches tall. 48 inches. This is about 48 inches tall. 48 inches. So this is going to be quite the exciting tank to set up as you come along with us.
That is correct. Or if not, we will have water all over the floor.
Great. And as I mentioned, these glass lids tend to get a lot of salt crust built up on them. So we'll go ahead and rinse that off here in the sink.
The salt crust cleans off easily just with the use of a wet towel, although in this case we can also use the faucet and the sink to flush those extra bits of salt debris down the drain. And before we return those glass panels to the top of the tank, we'll go ahead and take and clean that glass support that goes across the top of the tank, try to minimize some of the light that it blocks. We can then take the 4 individual panels of glass and position them on top of the tank. It's that plastic rim around the top of the tank along with that glass strip across the center that the glass panels sit down inside of or are held in place by.
And as I mentioned, there's a little flame angel that we've been acclimating here in the tank. A little pipe in here for him to be secure and happy with. And of course, there he is. So what we're going to do... Oh, okay. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. There we are. And there goes our little flame angel. Water level drop down to the proper mark, that red line on the reservoir, we'll consider the job almost done and just basically need to clean up after ourselves. Let's start first by putting that facade back up on the top there so you can see what it looks like when it's completely finished.
The aquarium owner built this himself, and it's a panel that sits on top of the tank. It's held in by 2 gate clamps, and it offers 2 relatively large openings. Within each one of those openings is a set of doors, and those individual doors can be removed as well. And now that we've come down to cleaning the outside of the tank, I'd like to point out that in the past I've always stated always use cleaners meant specifically for acrylic tanks, and don't use ammonia-based products such as Windex. In this case, this is a glass tank. This is the situation where you could consider using a Windex or ammonia-based window cleaner. Just make sure that the extra spray doesn't spill over into the aquarium.
Generally, there's a little bottle of Windex in the cabinet below, and I can't find it today. And that's one of the big advantages of a glass tank, is you can use that ammonia-based cleaner, whereas in an acrylic tank, ultimately, that would cause the tank to frost. So that's how we service the Reef tank, and hopefully you learned something out of it. In the meantime, I've got to get dashing because I got to get to another service, but always keep moving forward.